Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. So let's get started. Of course, in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week, because at the end of the episode, I do the viewer's pick of the week. So I had 13 books this week, a pretty average haul for me, so an average isn't the number of books I got. But let's get started. Number 13 for me was Future State Teen Titans issue 2. This is the last Future State issue for Teen Titans before Teen Titans Academy issue 1, which is premiering in March. And this was kind of confusing, honestly. I just thought a lot was thrown at you. And those are usually, for me, the Future State books I've enjoyed the least, is where I'm like, okay, I feel like I've never read a Teen Titans book. It just feels like you're thrown in as a new reader, even though you've been reading comics all your life. I just feel like it's very confusing the way they kind of throw you into it all. And issue 2, I felt faltered even more than issue 1 because of that. And then it ends with, oh, if you want to know what happened here, go read the next book, which is Teen Titans Academy. And I kind of wish things were just explained a little bit better here, or not have this story at all. I don't think it was even needed. I'd rather have had all this build up with the background information in Teen Titans Academy instead of this Future State book. There's also a moment where Red X reveals his face. We still don't know who he is, but like that kind of takes away some of the elements of mystery and what's going on there, the whole reason to pick up Teen Titans Academy. So if you're going to reveal him totally, and you don't even do that in this issue. So very cluttered issue, disappointing for me. So overall, giving that 2 stars. Moving on to number 12, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 59. I hate seeing this book so low. I really, really do. I love The Amazing Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man as a character. But this arc has been so strange, honestly. I don't know how to describe it. There's stuff that I feel like has so much potential. Like Liz Allen, man. I'll always talk about Liz Allen. I think she's such an interesting character that writers almost tap into. There's always something interesting that's introduced with her, and they never follow through with it. And this issue, I don't even think anything interesting was introduced with her. She just cries more and more. And I'm like, what is the point of her being here? And all of it kind of feels cliche. It doesn't feel emotional for emotion's sake. It's just like, okay, now she's crying again. I didn't love Liz Allen's involvement here. I also don't really care about Mr. Negative introducing a whole nother layer of story that is not necessary for the Kindred story that needs to wrap up. We're up to issue 60 of this book, and Kindred is still not wrapped up at all. We're not really getting closer to, hopefully, the interesting story that is somewhere here with Kindred. I feel like too many things are kept from us where none of the book feels like there's any movement. And yeah, adding more to the underground of New York does not help with this one. So overall, I'm giving that 2 stars. Even the artwork, where I felt like there's times where it's consistent, the facial expressions were so out there, and again, especially for Liz Allen. So again, not a huge fan of this issue. Hopefully it picks up. Next issue is a Mary Jane and Peter issue, so we can only hope that one is a stronger story. So giving that 2 stars, and that is number 12. Now moving on to number 11, a book that I am so conflicted with, and that is Erratic issue 3. This is a miniseries from AWA. And there's so many things I want to like about this book. There's a lot of elements that I particularly enjoy. I like young adult teen superhero narratives, especially new ones. And this issue is actually in the point of view of Blonde Girl. And I want to like this character so badly. I just really want to enjoy this character. But I don't really get her. And honestly, issue 3 is like, okay, cool, she's narrating. Maybe I'll learn more about her. You kind of do, but it wasn't enough for me. I just feel like she's so conflicting. That's the best way to put it. Sometimes she's nice, sometimes she's not. I don't know what she's thinking. I really don't know what her role is in this book. Even though they've been putting so much weight on her, this whole issue is narrated by her. And then that narration's cut to go back to Erratic, and things are happening really quickly. And there's this theme of, okay, don't put someone in a box. And I don't think the buildup was there for that theme to be so pushed onto you in issue 3 and making that the whole issue and kind of this weird Twilight Zone moment with it. So overall, I want to really like this book, but it's not structurally doing it for me. Hopefully that changes with the last 2 issues. I will finish up the miniseries because the artwork is gorgeous and I still enjoy the concept of the book, but the characters are a little all over the place for me. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 11. So moving on to number 10, which is American Vampire 1976, issue 5. So this issue is again a little expositionary heavy. I'm not a huge fan of the Beast storyline. I care more about what the characters are dealing with, but I guess, its connection to history, and there's a lot of exposition to explain that, and I do enjoy the character moments of our main characters when we get it, but it is a lot of just listening to information for this issue, which is why it's a little lower. Artwork is always really good. I love when we get to see the vampire side of stuff and the different designs. Actually kind of had a little bit of a death metal feel, especially the little boy kind of felt Robin King-esque. So it's kind of cool to see that influence go into this book. You know, this is one of Scott Snyder's first books, and to kind of see how it's grown with his previous work. I thought that was kind of cool. But overall, a bit of a forgettable issue for me. But I still love this series, and hopefully it picks up. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 10, I believe. That was number 10. So moving on to number 9, which was DC's Love is a Battlefield, issue 1. Honestly, I only got this because I wanted to see the Poison Ivy and Harley story. So I'm like, okay, I gotta see what's going on with them. And that was cute, but honestly wasn't my favorite one. Like, I enjoyed it. I liked seeing their whole life story. But I honestly really enjoyed the Teen Titans story, and Sergeant Rock were my favorites, which is kind of crazy to say. Sergeant Rock, just because it surprised me. I don't really know anything about the character. I've seen him here and there because DC's kind of been pushing him in the last couple of years, but I really don't know much about him, and it was kind of cool to see a surprisingly queer story in that, so I enjoyed that, liked the art, liked the direction of that story. And then Teen Titans was just fun. I liked those characters a lot, and it brought in the vibe of the Teen Titans old series to this, and it's a Miko and Wallace going on a date, and it was really cute, and I enjoyed the character moments. I felt like there was some sort of movement with their characters as well, unlike a lot of these other stories. A lot of the other stories are just like, okay, we have to fight a monster, we love each other, and that's kind of it. There are some odd couples here, which I honestly enjoyed, and that was like Amanda Waller and Perry White was in this, so, and they kind of not fall in love, but they have feelings for each other by the end of the story. So I like that there was a lot of unique pairings. This is a really long book, though. It was 80 pages, and it took me a while to get through all of them. And again, not all of them were my favorites. Like, I didn't quite like the Mr. Miracle one. I was really disappointed with the Wonder Woman story, where they brought in a non-binary character and kind of painted them as the villain, and I didn't really quite understand or like the commentary they were going for that. The Catwoman and Batman story was kind of boring, and I've definitely seen better stories from them. So it was kind of a mixed bag at times, but there's so many unique stories in here, and I think a well enough anthology to make it a worthwhile pickup. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 9. So moving on to number 8. This is a big issue, so I'm glad to talk about it, and that is Mighty Morphin issue 4. So this issue builds up to the moment of figuring out who the new Green Ranger was. And I kind of figured throughout who it probably would be, just because of the character that was missing throughout the series and who would make an emotional reveal. And spoiler alert, we do find out it is Matt. So Matt is a unique character to the comics. I love his character, so I am so excited to see what they do with him. And I really like the cliffhanger of this book, because it's not just a reveal of, okay, here's the Green Ranger, I'm going to let the rest of the Power Rangers know. He's kind of taking this social slash celebrity route where he reveals it to the world. So I feel like there's only been like 1 or 2 times that's happened in Power Rangers. I believe in Space did that, where they actually reveal the secret identity. So it's kind of interesting to see the superhero aspect played here with the Power Rangers. So I really enjoyed that, and I want to see how that makes a different path for Matt, and how he's going to mesh with the other Rangers, how Kimberly's going to react to this. There's a lot of great potential story here. So love that. I do wish there was a little build up to it, though. Green Ranger is not really mentioned in this issue as much, and then we just kind of get the reveal. I do wish the rest of the story had to do with that, and there are so many other elements and mechanics happening here. We get the reveal, not to us, we knew something was up to her, but we get the reveal of Skull's girlfriend being an alien, so there's a lot there, and there's a lot of action in this issue, so I wish it was, I wish that we got a little bit more of the Green Ranger, like I mentioned, and maybe taking out some of the action and making this kind of a pure character issue. But overall, a lot of great things coming for the Power Rangers and a lot of great things introduced here. So giving Mighty Morphin issue 4 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. So moving on to number 7, which is Future State Dark Detective issue 3 we're up to. These are so hard to review. I'll continue to say that. These backup stories make it very hard because they are full issues. They are not just 5 pages. They make these books a lot more expensive, and you might not be connected to them. That happened to me a lot this week. So Dark Detective is one where I really like the main story, which is why it's so high, but then I really didn't care about Grifter. I didn't really like the artwork for Grifter, and you do have to put that in your review. But talking about the main story, Dan Mora's artwork is drop-dead gorgeous and really fits the tone and the style of storytelling Mariko tells, and is so character-driven, actually digs deeper into the thematics of having a private organization be the police of Gotham. And this is the first story that's kind of done that in the way that Dark Detective has. I'm not saying other books haven't touched upon it, but this kind of goes all in and through Bruce's point of view, and I really like that, and the idea of what it means to trade your privacy through, again, the lens of a character like Bruce Wayne, and I enjoyed it. We also build the supporting characters a bit more here. The one nitpick I had is Next Batman showing up. I love the idea of Next Batman showing up, but to only have 2 pages with it, I was like, oh, we get to see them, but that's about it. It was like a little bit too much of a tease. I wanted more from them. So I was a little disappointed with that, and I hope we do get a future issue where it's just them interacting, and things felt a little rushed there, and I don't know why he had to be introduced in this issue, but overall, I thought this was really solid, and it gets me so excited to see what this creative team is going to do with Detective Comics. So Dark Detective issue 3 gets 4 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is the other book where, okay, I didn't quite care about the secondary story, and that is Future State Justice League issue 2. I loved the first issue, was pleasantly surprised by it, and issue 2 really sticks the landing, especially with the themes of what they were going for in that first issue of the Justice League not knowing each other's secret identities, and how it kind of makes it hard for them to be heroes. So this one, literally the battle has to do with them learning about each other and why it's a good thing to know more about each other as a team, and how that helps you be a better superhero. So overall, really like the plot for this one. I feel like that's been a struggle for Future State, so to have a strong plot, strong character moments is A+ in my book. I really enjoyed that first story, and it gives us hope for maybe more in the future, and I love this team. And in 2 issues, I've grown to like every single character on this team, and I just want to see them interact again. Artwork is so solid for this book too. It just fits for a flagship that I wish would exist with this book. Then moving into the Justice League Dark. I don't read Justice League Dark, so it's so hard to review something like that, and I didn't enjoy it as much because I feel like I'm kind of being forced to read this issue because it's just like, okay, I bought this book, so I'm going to read both stories, and they're so different. The only thing that's the same is that they have Justice League in the name, so I don't quite love the way they've attached these books. I really wish they were separate, and I get it from a selling point of view why they did it, but I didn't have to spend, this is a $7 book because I got the variant cover, so, win them or you lose them, but that's why this one didn't make my top 5, but still really enjoyed that first story. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, a new book that I've been stoked for. If you saw my top 10 most anticipated books, this is very high in the 2021 list from a couple, I guess, months ago now. But Radiant Black, issue 1. So I am a fan of Kyle Higgins. I enjoyed his Power Rangers run. Obviously a big Power Rangers fan, and also a huge Invincible fan. So when I saw the comparison of Invincible meets Power Rangers, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this. I also feel like in indie comics, we really haven't seen a superhero indie in a while, in the mainstream indie. Obviously, the Kickstarter stuff, we've seen it a lot, but like from Image Comics, those type of companies, we don't see it as often, especially new characters. Maybe they'll do, okay, here's Hellboy again, or here's Invincible again. It's kind of nice just to see a new, fresh take, and that's exactly what we see here, and it doesn't let you down on Invincible meets Power Rangers. I definitely felt both franchises come to life. You know, Power Rangers with the look of the outfit, the way he gets his powers, and then Invincible more for this kind of commentary on superheroes, and even the main character kind of feels like Mark a bit, and he has this best friend that not by accident, but just kind of happens that he finds out that he's a superhero as well. One thing I enjoyed is that it looks like there's going to be a really expansive world. So first of all, backtrack for a second. What is this book about? We get to see this writer who's failing, right? He wants to make this novel, and then we find out in the mix of it, it's not because he never got a chance, it's because he got into his own head a little bit too much, and I think every writer knows what that feels like, and how you weigh your success with what you've written down on the page, and I thought that was really great, and you could kind of tell the personal story a writer would be telling, like Kyle Higgins, in a book about writing. So I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, this genre has to do with superheroes and trying to sell those stories. So what happens when you become the story? Can you write that story? And are you defined by what you write? And what does that mean for your future of writing? So I really enjoyed that. And again, I liked the Power Rangers take. I liked how you really jump into the action because he just gets this suit and you're like, what's going on? And you're kind of learning as the big moment is happening, the big incident. So it's not expositionary, it's really quick, it's all, you're seeing exactly what's going on, and I love books like that. So I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was very solid, and like I said, you kind of get an expansive universe already because in the back we get to see this villain that's kind of wearing the same thing, and he's like stealing from a bank, and then even in the letter pages it seems like there's this girl. So is this gonna be a team? Are we gonna get to see more characters like this? Or we're gonna get to see the mythology built? Very excited for that. So much promise. The artwork makes it feel like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like I said, it really fits the Invincible description you're going for. So much promise for this series. Very excited for more. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Robin Eternal, issue 2. These are easier to review because they're only one story. The reason I like this so much, though, as a Tim Drake fan, I really feel like it went into his psyche a bit. Because this whole issue is from the point of view of him going into Lazarus Pit. And instead of making it the reactions of Stephanie and the other character, we actually get through the point of view of Tim and how he's kind of going crazy, and the Lazarus Pit is talking to him. And then the idea is he dead? Is he not dead? And in the end, there's kind of this ominous cliffhanger of he kind of dies again, but he comes back to life. So there's a lot of interesting stuff, and it actually does connect to other stories because Stephanie gets arrested. So there's a lot of interesting connection here, but really it was the character story. It's what Tim was going through, how he felt about Stephanie being there, how Stephanie felt about him being there. And if you enjoy Tim Drake, I feel like this was definitely a love letter to the character in many ways. So, and the artwork is so good for this book as well, and really fits the kind of grittier tone this is going for, and the more emotional tone this is going for. So overall, giving that 4 stars, really enjoyed this one, and thought it really stuck the landing here, and I hope we get to see more stories from this, because we've been seeing some teases that we're getting more Future State miniseries and continuations. And, you know, I want to see more Tim, and I want to see more Steph. So giving that 4 stars. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 for me is Daredevil, issue 27. Yes, I got the physical issue because I decided to put it on my physical pull list because I've been really enjoying this. And this one doesn't disappoint. It's a little bit slower, but it's much more character-driven. Not that the last issue wasn't, but we get to see how Daredevil, in particular, how Matt is dealing with being nullified and what that means for his religious beliefs. And I really liked the take of that, where Null's like, I'm your God, because this is what he continues to say in King in Black, and how Daredevil, as a Catholic character, deals with that, and how he deals with his faith, and him his own morality. Does he feel like he's going to go to heaven? Does he feel like he's doing the right thing? So I love that side of the story. But then we also have Elektra, who's also going through her own personal journey and story of, Mary being this Venom, and then these other two new characters that are introduced, and this daughter's mom dying and her being nullified. So Elektra has to decide, how do I become a better Daredevil? How do I take Matt's place? And by the end of the issue, she realizes, no, it's not about being Matt. It's about owning that Daredevil name, but through Elektra's eyes. And we really get to see that. Really well done issue. I enjoyed this a lot. So giving Daredevil issue 27 4.5 stars, and that is number 3. We're already up to number 3, and 4.5 star books is pretty good. And also the artwork has been drop dead gorgeous for that book as well, and a really good King in Black tie-in. Now moving on to number 2, which is another King in Black tie-in. I was impressed how this tied in, and that is Fantastic Four issue 29. And this issue, at first I thought it was a little abrupt, the King in Black tie-in, because you have this kind of lax day of our heroes just kind of going back to Earth, going back to the Baxter building, and going back to Yancey Street, and dealing with their own stuff. And we have Johnny reconnecting or just connecting with his soulmate, and Sue's like, oh, this isn't your soulmate, get out of here. And they go on a date, and they're really connecting, and Sue eavesdrops. She spies on them, and I love that brother-sister dynamic that I feel like we don't get to see enough of, so I love that was introduced. I'm like, okay, but this is just a, fun character issue. And then King in Black hits, literally, right in that moment. And you're like, oh, well, that's abrupt. But then you realize how the stories are connected. So we get to see Sue watch her brother maybe get, I don't want to say killed, but at least part of this King in Black event. You don't know what happens to him. You don't know his fate. And then the soulmate is actually turning into the nullified creature as well. So Sue is actually realizing, oh, maybe they are connected. That's strange. And Sue's kind of sorry about that. And obviously sorry for getting in a fight with her brother because of what's happening here. So I love the emotional impacts of what King in Black did to the Fantastic Four in general. And then you have an awesome cliffhanger of the Thing being nullified and trying to bring in Sue and Reed there. And it does connect really well with the event. So I enjoyed this a lot. Artwork is so strong for this book too, especially the emotional aspect. Even the comedy in this issue is a really well-balanced issue and a surprisingly really good tie-in to King in Black. So giving that 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. All right, moving on to number 1. This week, of course, I feel like if you guys know me, this book came out, so it was my number 1 pick, and that is Power Pack issue 3. This is good, and I maybe some people will be surprised because of the end result, but we'll talk about that. So this issue is Julie power-centric, so we get to see Julie narrating, and we start out with her talking about what it means to be smart, because that is what her character is known for. She was always the smartest, and she always had her head in a book. And then it goes into, well, am I really a hero? I've always wanted to quit, and that's also been a big part of her narrative, at least outside of the Power Pack franchise. So in recent years, I guess in the past 10 years, that's always been her journey. She really started branching away from the Power Pack when she was in the Loners, and that whole story is like, I don't even want to use my powers anymore. I don't want to be a superhero. I don't want to be who I'm meant to be. Like, she even had this facade of pretending to be ditzy and all that. And then we got to see her be part of the Avengers Academy. We got to see her join up kind of in the Runaways. So she's had a path, and even with the Future Foundation. And there were just times where she's like, I don't want to be a hero. I just want to go to college and be a normal girl. I've been this kind of childhood star, childhood superhero. So she realizes, because also another big part of her character's empathy, she realizes maybe that wasn't a good thing. That's not what heroes should do. A hero should be should sacrifice and want that kind of big moment to save the people she loves. So we lead into them finding out the wizard is behind everything, and there's some really good action moments and good superhero moments, even though maybe they should have figured out a long time ago that it was the wizard. I kind of forgive it. And then by the end, they get trapped, and then Julie realizes through everything I just said, through her empathy, through her smarts, through her past, that she needs to sacrifice herself. Now, I hope that Julie Power doesn't die. I would be really upset about that. But this was the reason this is my number one, even if there was little faults of, okay, they should have noticed it was Wizard, or, the artwork could have been stronger in places. The reason why this is my number one is because it's not just an issue journey. It's not just a mini-series journey. It is a character arc that kind of ends and gets capped off here. Because like I said, a lot of this were pinpoints, and a lot of this was just things that were introduced so far in the past that were picked up here to tell this story, and that's why I really enjoyed it. Now, again, Julie Power, don't die on me, but I'm glad she kind of learns a lesson here, and I'm curious to see how Jack's gonna react to it, because he's the last person in line to tell the story from his point of view. So what is Jack gonna do? So I really, really enjoyed this one, and as a Julie Power fan, I thought it did a great job at telling her character arc and her character story. So that is my number one pick. Of course, in the comments below, let me know what your pick of the week was. So at the end, we of course have the viewer pick of the week, which we're getting to. So last week's pick of the week was actually my pick of the week, which was Runaways, my favorite book on Stan. So you guys definitely had a winner there. And here are some comments about that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her a Dancer. And every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. Thanks, guys. Bye.